When my babysitter called me at 11 at night and told me to lock my bedroom door immediately, I thought maybe she was pranking me. But when I heard those footsteps outside my room at 11:45, I realized the horrible truth. Someone had been inside my house the entire time, watching me, waiting for the perfect moment. And I had no idea until it was almost too late. My name is Riley Matthews. I'm 18 years old, and this is the story of the night that changed everything I thought I knew about safety. It started on a Friday night in October. My parents had to drive 4 hours away to attend my grandmother's funeral. She'd passed away suddenly, and my mom was devastated. They left around 5 in the evening, and they wouldn't be back until Saturday afternoon. That meant I'd be alone in the house for the first time overnight. Now, I'm 18. I'm technically an adult. I've stayed home alone plenty of times during the day, and I thought I was ready for this. But my mom is the kind of person who worries about everything. She insisted on calling our longtime babysitter, Natasha Torres, to check on me. I was annoyed at first. A babysitter? Really? I wasn't a child anymore, but Natasha wasn't just any babysitter. She'd been watching me since I was 7 years old. She was 25 now, and honestly, she felt more like an older sister than someone my parents paid to watch me. She lived just 3 blocks away in our neighborhood, and over the years, we'd become really close. My mom made Natasha promise to come over around 8, stay for a couple of hours, and make sure I was settled in for the night. I agreed because I knew arguing with my mom would be pointless, especially when she was already emotional about losing her mother. So Friday night came. My parents left. The house felt bigger and quieter than usual, but I didn't mind. I made myself comfortable on the couch, put on some music, and waited for Natasha. She showed up at 8:15 with pizza and ice cream. That's just the kind of person Natasha is. She never came empty-handed. We sat in the living room, ate way too much food, and watched this terrible horror movie that we spent more time laughing at than actually being scared of. It felt normal, safe, comfortable. By 10:30, Natasha said she should head home. She had to work early the next morning at the coffee shop downtown. I walked her to the front door, and she gave me a hug. She said, "Lock this door behind me, okay? And text me before you go to sleep so I know you're good." I rolled my eyes but smiled. "Yes, Mom." She laughed and walked to her car. I closed the front door and turned the deadbolt. I heard it click into place. I even tested the handle to make sure it was secure. Then I headed upstairs to my bedroom. I changed into my pajamas, brushed my teeth, and climbed into bed with my phone. I scrolled through social media for a while, replied to some messages from friends, and just relaxed. The house was completely silent, except for the occasional creak of the floors settling, which was normal in our old house. Everything felt perfectly fine. I felt safe, protected, like nothing bad could ever happen in my own home, in my own neighborhood, in my own bedroom. I had no reason to think otherwise. Our neighborhood was one of those quiet suburban areas where people knew each other, where kids rode bikes in the street, where nothing dangerous ever happened. My parents had lived here for 15 years without a single problem. So when my phone rang at exactly 11 o'clock and I saw Natasha's name on the screen, I answered it casually. I figured maybe she forgot something at my house, or maybe she just wanted to say goodnight again. But the second I heard her voice, I knew something was terribly wrong. If you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from right now. Natasha's voice came through the phone shaky and urgent in a way I had never heard before. She said my name like it was a warning. "Riley, lock your bedroom door right now." I sat up in bed, confused, thinking maybe this was some kind of joke. I said, "What are you talking about?" And she repeated herself, louder this time. "Lock your bedroom door right now, please." The tone in her voice made my stomach drop. I threw off my blanket, walked to my door, and turned the lock. My hands were already starting to shake. I said, "Okay, it's locked. Now tell me what's going on." There was a pause on the other end, and I could hear her breathing hard like she'd been running. Then she said something that made my blood turn ice cold. "When I left your house tonight, I got halfway home and realized I forgot my car keys on your kitchen counter. I turned around and came back to get them. Riley, when I got to your front door, it was unlocked." I felt my heart start pounding. I said, "That's impossible. I locked it right after you left. I watched myself do it." She said, "I know you did. I saw you lock it too. That's why I'm freaking out." I went inside to grab my keys, and I heard something upstairs. Footsteps. Heavy footsteps in the hallway near the bedrooms. I thought maybe your parents came home early, but their car wasn't in the driveway. Then I looked up your staircase, and I saw a shadow move across the wall at the top of the stairs. Riley, someone is inside your house right now. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My bedroom suddenly felt smaller, like the walls were closing in. I whispered, "Where are you right now?" And Natasha said, "I'm in my car across the street. I didn't want him to see me. I already called 911. They're coming, but you need to stay quiet and stay in your room. Don't open that door for anyone except the police. Do you understand me?" I said yes, but my voice came out so quiet I wasn't sure she heard me. She said the police told me they'd be there in 5 to 7 minutes. "I'm staying on the phone with you until they arrive. Just stay calm and stay quiet." I sat back down on my bed, clutching my phone so hard my knuckles turned white. I could hear Natasha breathing on the other end of the line, and somehow that made me feel slightly less alone. But then I started listening to the sounds in my house, really listening, and that's when the fear became real. At first, there was nothing but silence, the kind of thick, heavy silence that makes your ears ring. I strained to hear anything, any sign that Natasha was wrong, that maybe she'd imagined it. But then, at exactly 11:45, I heard them, footsteps, slow and deliberate, like someone was walking carefully, trying not to make too much noise, but not quite succeeding. They were coming down the hallway toward my room. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from making any sound. The footsteps got closer and closer until they stopped right outside my bedroom door. I stared at the door handle, watching it like it was a bomb about to explode. Then it started to turn, slowly, testing. Whoever was out there was checking to see if my door was locked. I heard Natasha's voice whisper through the phone, "Riley, what's happening? Talk to me." I could barely form words. I whispered, "Someone's at my door." She said, "Oh God, okay, don't move, don't make any noise. The police are almost there." The door handle stopped turning. For a few seconds there was complete silence, and I thought maybe the person had left. But then I heard the footsteps again, this time moving away from my door and heading toward the other end of the hallway, toward my parents' bedroom. I heard a door creak open. Then I heard drawers being pulled out, things being moved around. Whoever was in my house was searching for something. And that's when I remembered something that made everything so much worse. My dad kept a lockbox in his bedroom closet with emergency cash and important documents inside. If this person found it, if they got what they wanted, would they just leave, or would they come back for me? I sat frozen on my bed, listening to the sounds of someone rifling through my parents' belongings in the next room. Natasha kept whispering through the phone, asking if I was okay, telling me the police were less than 2 minutes away, begging me to stay quiet and stay put. But my mind was racing with 1,000 terrifying thoughts. What if this person found my dad's lockbox and got angry that there wasn't more inside? What if they decided to check every room in the house? What if they came back to my door and this time they didn't just try the handle? I realized I couldn't just sit there waiting and hoping. I needed to do something to help myself. That's when I remembered that my bedroom window faced the front of the house. If I could get to the window, maybe I could signal to Natasha exactly where the intruder was. Maybe that information could help the police when they arrived. I told Natasha what I was thinking, and she immediately said, "No, Riley, just stay where you are. Don't do anything." But I was already moving. I crept across my bedroom floor as quietly as possible, avoiding the spots near my bed that I knew creaked. Every step felt like it took forever. My heart was beating so loud I was convinced the person in my parents' room could hear it through the walls. I reached my window and carefully, slowly, lifted it open just a few inches. The cool October air hit my face, and I could see Natasha's car parked across the street with the headlights off. I could barely make out her silhouette in the driver's seat. I looked around my room for something I could use to signal her. My eyes landed on my desk lamp. I unplugged it from the wall, carried it to the window, and flashed it 3 times toward her car. On the phone, I heard her gasp and say, "I see you. What are you doing? Get away from that window." I whispered as quietly as I could, He's in my parents' bedroom, second floor, right side of the house. Tell the police. I saw Natasha's shadow move in her car like she was leaning forward, probably texting or calling the police with that information. For just a second, I felt like maybe I'd done something smart, something helpful. But then everything went wrong. The sounds from my parents' room suddenly stopped. Complete silence. And in that silence, I realized I'd made a terrible mistake. When I opened my window, it had made a small sliding sound, not loud, but in a quiet house. Sound travels. The person in my parents' room had heard me. Before I could move away from the window, I heard the footsteps again. But this time, they weren't slow and careful. They were fast, almost running, coming back down the hallway straight toward my room. I dropped the lamp and scrambled back to my bed, my whole body shaking. Natasha was saying something urgent through the phone, but I couldn't process her words. All I could hear was those footsteps getting closer and closer until they stopped right outside my door again. Then came 3 knocks. Slow, deliberate, methodical. Each one felt like a hammer hitting my chest. Nobody said anything, just those 3 knocks hanging in the air like a threat. I pulled my knees up to my chest and wrapped my arms around them, trying to make myself as small as possible. Natasha was almost yelling through the phone now. Riley, answer me. What's happening? The police are turning onto your street right now. I managed to whisper he's at my door again. He knocked. She said 30 seconds. Riley, they're 30 seconds away. Just hold on. But then the person on the other side of my door did something that made my blood run completely cold. He spoke. His voice was calm and steady and absolutely terrifying because of how normal it sounded. He said, I know you're in there. I know you called someone, but here's what you don't know. And then he said something that made me realize this was so much worse than a random break-in. This was personal. This was planned. And I had been in danger long before tonight. The man's voice continued through my bedroom door, each word making my skin crawl. He said, I've been in your house before, Riley. Multiple times. I know every inch of this place. I know you hide your diary under your mattress. I know you drink orange juice straight from the carton when your parents aren't looking. I know you listen to music too loud when you're doing homework. I know everything about you, Riley Matthews. My entire body went numb. How did he know my full name? How did he know about my diary? How did he know these tiny personal details about my life? I looked toward Natasha's car through my window, and I could see red and blue police lights reflecting off the houses down the street, getting brighter and closer. The man kept talking like he had all the time in the world. He said your babysitter forgot her keys tonight, didn't she? So careless. But I knew she would. I've been watching this house for 3 weeks now, learning everyone's routines, everyone's patterns, everyone's mistakes. I knew your parents would be gone this weekend for your grandmother's funeral. I knew you'd be here alone, and I knew Natasha would come back for those keys because she always forgets something. That's exactly when I slipped in through your back door while she was walking to her car. The pieces started connecting in my mind, and I felt sick. He'd been watching us, studying us, planning this for weeks. He knew my grandmother had died. He knew our schedules. He'd been inside my house before while we were home, touching our things, learning about us, and we never noticed. The sirens were getting louder now, close enough that I could hear them clearly through my window. The man's voice changed, becoming more urgent and angry. He said, you got lucky tonight, Riley. Your babysitter got lucky. But this isn't over. I know what school you go to. I know you have chemistry class 3rd period on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I know you park in the back lot near the gym. I know where you get coffee every Saturday morning. I know your whole life, and I'll be watching. Then I heard him run, his footsteps pounding down the stairs so fast, it sounded like he was taking them 3 at a time. I heard a door slam somewhere in the back of the house. Through the phone, Natasha screamed, he's running out the back. Riley, stay in your room. Don't open your door. Within seconds, I heard the front door burst open and heavy boots running through my house. Multiple voices shouting, police. Show your hands. Police department. Someone pounded on my bedroom door hard enough to make me jump. A deep voice yelled, police. Riley Matthews, are you in there? We're here to help you. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn the lock, but I managed to get the door open. Two police officers stood there in full uniform, and one of them immediately stepped forward and wrapped a thick blanket around my shoulders, even though I didn't remember feeling cold. The officer asked, "Are you hurt? Did he touch you? Are you injured in any way?" I shook my head because I couldn't make words come out of my mouth. The other officer was speaking into his radio saying suspect fled through back exit heading east toward the woods. "We need units on the perimeter now." Then I heard Natasha screaming my name from downstairs, and the officers let her through. She ran up the stairs and pulled me into the tightest hug I'd ever felt in my life. We were both crying and shaking and holding on to each other like we'd never let go. She kept saying, I'm so sorry, I should have stayed with you. This is my fault." But it wasn't her fault. None of this was her fault. A female officer gently separated us and guided me downstairs to the living room, where more police were searching through everything with flashlights and cameras. She sat me down on the couch and said, "We need to ask you some questions." And then she said something that made my stomach drop even further. "We found evidence that he's been in your house multiple times before tonight. We need you to help us figure out what else he might have done." The police spent 4 hours going through every inch of our house that night. What they found made me sick to my stomach. They discovered that the man had been inside our home at least 7 different times over the past 3 weeks, always when we were out or asleep. He'd moved small things around, things so subtle we never noticed. A picture frame tilted slightly, a kitchen chair pushed in differently, books rearranged on shelves. But the worst part was what they found on my own phone. The detective sat me down and explained that while I was sleeping, the intruder had come into my room, used my face to unlock my phone, taken photos of me sleeping, scrolled through my messages and photos, and then deleted his tracks. They were able to recover some of the deleted files. Seeing those photos of myself asleep and completely vulnerable made me feel violated in a way I can't even describe. He'd been standing over my bed, watching me, studying me, and I had no idea. The police also searched our backyard with flashlights and dogs. About 50 feet into the woods behind our property, they found a small camping setup hidden behind thick bushes. There was a tent, a sleeping bag, binoculars, and 3 notebooks filled with pages and pages of handwritten notes about my family. What time my dad left for work, what time my mom came home, what days I had late classes, what we ate for dinner, when we turned off the lights at night. Every detail of our lives written down like we were some kind of research project. The man was identified as Marcus Vance, 34 years old. He'd worked as a maintenance contractor for our neighborhood homeowners association until he was fired 2 months earlier for showing up to work drunk and acting inappropriately toward residents. Apparently he'd done work on our street before, and that's how he first noticed our house and our family. The police told us he had a history of stalking charges in another state, but nothing that had sent him to prison. He'd been living in those woods behind our house for at least 3 weeks, maybe longer. The police launched a massive search, but Marcus disappeared that night. For 3 days, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow looked like a person. My parents came home immediately after the police called them, and my mom didn't leave my side for a week. We installed cameras everywhere, motion sensors on every door and window, and my dad even got a security system that alerts the police automatically if anything is triggered. I started seeing a therapist twice a week because I was having panic attacks and nightmares. On the 3rd day after the break-in, police in a town 40 minutes away responded to another attempted break-in. A woman reported seeing someone trying to force open her back door. When officers arrived, they found Marcus Vance hiding in the garage. He tried to run, but they caught him. He was arrested and charged with stalking, multiple counts of breaking and entering, attempted burglary, and making criminal threats. At his trial, prosecutors used the notebooks, the recovered photos from my phone, and security footage from neighbors' cameras that showed him watching our house on multiple nights. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison, with no possibility of early parole. Even though he's locked up now, I still think about that night constantly. The scariest part wasn't the break-in itself. It was realizing that my normal life, my safe life, had been an illusion. While I was eating dinner, doing homework, watching movies with my family, He was out there watching us through windows, learning everything about us, waiting for his moment. I learned that safety isn't something you can just assume. You have to actively protect it. Now I check locks twice. I notice when things are out of place. I trust my instincts when something feels wrong. And I never take for granted the people who care about me, like Natasha, who literally saved my life by coming back for her keys that night. If you made it to the end of this story, please hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you would have done in my situation. Sometimes the most terrifying monsters aren't strangers in dark alleys. Sometimes they're patient and calculated and hiding in plain sight, watching and waiting until you're at your most vulnerable. And the only thing standing between you and disaster is paying attention to the warning signs before it's too late.